Hi, this is going to be the October 2020 tarot reading for those Tauruses. And this applies if your moon, your sun, or your rising sign, or your part of fortune sign is in Taurus. So anyway, I'm going to start off the reading by briefly talking about the actual astrology of the month. And for that, at this stage, I'm just going to be talking about the new and full moons for the month and how those will affect you, Tauruses. I'll do that for each of the signs actually this month. And yeah, so and after that, then I'll roll the astrological dice to get additional astrological influences of the month. They're more chance-based, they're more, or randomly generated more so, theoretically anyway. But divination in that sense, like tarot and astro dice and stuff like that, anything that's where it's, random selections, right? Or so-called random, operates based on the basis of synchronicity, which is the fact that fucking essentially the card that comes up is the one that people are meant to see. So it's like it's kind of like in life when fucking you're you know you come to a pivotal point in your life, right? And you see an omen of some sort, and it's like whoa, it just confirms it, of, whatever is happening for you, a message or something from the universe or from God or whatever, right? Like that. That's how divination, like the tarot cards and the astro dice and stuff, they're like so-called random based or chance based. Those things fucking they operate on that level, kind of, where it's based on the idea of synchronicity, which is a term coined by Carl Jung. So it's yeah, the astrology in itself, that's it's less random or chance based. You can't really roll a dice or select cards and and change the position of the planets at certain times, right? Moon is in Aries right now, and it's there's not really much I can do to change whether it's in Aries right now or not. Like the sun's in Libra, and there's nothing I can do to change that. So it is what it is. Astrology is more kind of it's more concrete rather than random based. Anyway, I thought I'd mention that. But yeah, just to start off with, yeah, the astrological influences for the month. Okay, for October of 2020, we just had a full moon in Aries. And what this means for you, Taurus, is this full moon activates your 12th and 6th house. So what this essentially means is that, yeah, the moon's in your 12th house and the sun is in your 6th house. What this means is that around the beginning of October, right about now, um, there's opportunities for you to either essentially how full moon works is it's an opposition between the sun and the moon. And essentially is that what that means is that a full moon basically provides an opportunity to either reconcile and bring greater balance to the two houses that are involved, or a full moon also gives people the opportunity to create more conflict between the two houses involved. So what this means is that for you Tauruses, with house 6 and house 12 being activated at the beginning of the month, this indicates that there's there's potential conflict or reconciliation regarding your work life and um, your solitary life, essentially. Like the 6th house represents work and your work environment and stuff like that, like your job and day-to-day routines as well. While the 12th house represents it's a house of isolation, essentially. It's a house of spiritual and it's a house of spirituality. It's a house of spiritual matters that can't really be quantified or explained very easily as well. It's a house of psychic vision, it's a psychic house. So essentially, the 6th house is probably one of the most, because it represents work and day-to-day routines, right? Jobs and all that stuff, right? It also represents servants and pets. So essentially, the 6th house represents it's a very mundane house, right? Yet the 12th house, which opposes the 6th house, it's a very it's the anti-mundane house, right? It's a very it's a very fine house. It's a very it's a house that can't really be defined as easily. It represents things that can't be defined as easily. It represents things that can't really be quantified, easily. It represents things that are um, it represents things that matter, things that are significant, things that can be incredibly significant, right? But it's just the things that are harder to pinpoint, and harder to tell what's what, right? It's a house, so it can represent confusion. It can represent both houses are considered two of the worst houses in astrology. They're both considered the two worst houses in astrology, the 12th and the 6th. Um, so essentially, like it could definitely for you Tauruses during the month of October, like this definitely there's potential to create more with that activation to create more negative circumstances in your life, right? Depending on the choices you make, right? And but also there's the possibility, of that of diffusing or alleviating or bringing relief to negative situations that are happening, right, in your lives. So it depends on the choices that you make, right, during the month. So yeah, um, and also as I said before, you know, the 12th house represents seclusion and isolation as well. And the 6th house represents can represent sickness as well, and 12th house can represent drugs. 6th house can represent illnesses, health problems. Um, 12th house can represent hospitals and institutions, like psychiatric institutions. 6th house can represent health problems, as I said. That's one of its primary significations, actually. Fucking yeah. So essentially, with that being said, there's definitely possibilities of health issues arising around this time as well, and so take extra precautions with that, Tauruses, right? And yeah, so you don't really want to, because like the 6th house represents health issues and the 12th house represents hospitals, right? So fucking you don't really want those kind of things to manifest in your lives, right? So it's just take extra precautions and like watch what you eat, exercise and all that, and with this coronavirus stuff happening, right? It may be an idea to wear that mask and stuff like that, and to take precautions with that, to practice like distancing, right? In some cases, right? Depending on what your health level is at to begin with, right? Leading into the month, right? So yeah, that's what I have to say about the full moon in Aries, which is at the beginning of the month. Now I'm going to address the new moon in Libra, which is around the middle of the month. The new moon in Libra is actually a really lucky new moon because it's conjunct Spica, which is like the most benevolent fixed star in the galaxy. It's considered the luckiest and like the most auspicious fixed star in like in our galaxy, right? So what that means is that Spica, it means that for you Tauruses and this new moon is gonna be in Libra, which is your 6th house, okay? Your whole sign 6th house. And I do whole sign houses for these readings because I don't know exactly, what your house divisions are like for each of you, based on the other division systems like Placidus and Koch and stuff like that. I don't know. But 6th house will apply for all of you Tauruses. It's for whole sign anyway because Libra is always the 6th whole sign house from Taurus. And that's why I do whole sign houses for this. Plus, whole sign houses work really well in astrology. I find that they actually work better than the other house systems. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But yeah, so I'd say that and say why I use whole sign. Anyway, the point is that or yeah, yeah, it did. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that the new moon is occurring in your 6th house, Tauruses, around the middle of the month of October. So what this indicates is that you're going to have opportunities for, to say, some of you have opportunities, a lot of you have opportunities to find a new job, to get a decent job, And since I said it's a lucky new moon, so okay, it's conjunct Spica, so you might have an opportunity to get, a good job, And And for some of you, you might have opportunities to expand or get better routines, day-to-day routines. You know, you might have some of you might be seeing a dietitian. You know, some of you may be getting a new exercise regimen. You know, some of you may have tips on how to improve your health. You know, and all that stuff, right? Um, some of you may, the sixth house represents pets, you know, so some of you may get pets, you know, around the middle of the month, you know. You know, that'd be a decent time to do it, actually, around that new moon, if you're interested in that. Some of you may be, some of you may be getting medical procedures of some sort that, you know, can, like I said, that new moon, it's definitely a decent time for that, you know. Um, if you're looking for a decent time for that, although, you know, if you're big intellectual astrology, you want to probably get it done professionally, or get, you know, if you don't really understand it yourself, and you know, because there's more to it than just, you know, going by a new moon. But you know, in general sense, a new moon that's conjunct Spica, that's pretty lucky, you know, in your sixth house. So health matters will probably you know, will probably be better during that time. Yeah, and yeah, that's about it for the Libra new moon around the middle of the month. Finally, we have the full moon in Taurus at the end of the month. So we have two full moons this month. Somewhat unusual, but it happens, you know, once in a while. Essentially, what this indicates is that for you Tauruses, this full moon is going to be occurring in your seventh and first houses. So Tauruses, around the end of the month, you know, you're going to have opportunities for the first house represents the self. It's the house that most represents you. You know, each person in their astrology chart, they have 12 houses, right? And the first house is the house that most represents the individual whose birth chart it's in, right? It represents a person's spirit, to extent, it represents their personality, it represents their mind, how they view the world, how their people view them. You know, it's the house that most represents like the individual. Anyway, so what this means, Taurus, is that around the end of the month, you're going to have, or leading up to the end of the month, you're going to have greater opportunities for relationships, greater opportunities um, for self-improvement, greater opportunities for reconciling, you know, perhaps reconciling with like partners, perhaps reconciling with romantic partners, perhaps reconciling with open enemies, perhaps reconciling the conscious versus the subconscious, you know, parts of yourselves, right? Perhaps, you know, opportunities for gaining self-awareness, you know, greater clarity into yourself, you know, greater psychological knowledge of yourself, right? Understanding, you know, your thought processes and all that. Yeah. Um, yeah. And yeah, there's definitely be opportunities for relationships as well, with the seventh house being activated by that full moon. Um, Interesting. The full moon, it's conjunct Uranus, so you know it's some of these relationships, you know, for some of you it could be unexpected. Some could be with people that are unique in some way, you know, or in some ways. Some of you um, could be with people who are Uranus can represent advanced people. Um, can represent, you know, relationship opportunities with advanced people. Um, Uranus can represent eccentric people, can represent genius people, um, highly intelligent people. So yeah, relationship opportunities with you know, people that are you know, have those significations are definitely gonna um, yeah, those, yeah. Yeah, for a lot of you, there's gonna be yeah, ones like that, opportunities like that, those kinds of people, more so than, yeah, different types, I'd say. Yeah. Anyway, that's, yeah, that's enough of the actual astrological influences for the month. In future videos, Taurus, I'm gonna I'm gonna integrate this better. Right now, I'm just doing the new and the full moons, which is, decent enough, I guess, so I can just start. But essentially, later on, I'm gonna integrate like astrology and tarot card readings together, or maybe do one separate video of each of them in future months. But not quite yet here. I'm not quite there yet. Not quite here yet. I don't know. I don't know, to me. Anyway. Well, I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe it did. Anyway, I'm not quite there yet. Yeah. So yeah, I'll watch out for that. But anyway, I'm gonna look at the astrological influences for the month. And that's according to the Astro Dice, which is basically, it's a tarot-like divination tool. It's based on so-called random chance, but as I said earlier, it operates on the principle, the spiritual principle of synchronicity, right? So, yeah. What are the astrological influences for the month of October 2020 for Tauruses? Okay. Okay, we have the North Node in Virgo in the 5th house, Tauruses. Huh. Okay, what I'm getting, obviously, yeah, pretty quickly here, is that there's opportunities. 5th house represents romance. It represents children. So it's a house of fertility. It's the primary house of fertility. And it's one of the 2 primary houses of romance. The other romance house would be the 7th house. The 5th house, what separates the 5th from the 7th is that the 7th house is more so based on committed romance, whereas the 5th house can definitely lead into committed romance. It's just more so that that's not exactly a prerequisite for it, like it is the 7th house. That makes sense. So essentially, North Node represents fated connections and fated meetings. So Taurus is during the month of October 2020. And yeah, with, like I said, with that full moon in your sign at the end of the month. Or no, what I may have misspoke a bit on that one. There's definitely going to be opportunities for relationships with you because your 7th and 1st house is being activated in that full moon. But the moon is in your 1st house, actually, Tauruses, whereas the sun is in your 7th house in that full moon. Just to clarify that. I think I mixed those 2 up because I said that during the Aries reading the other day, which actually the full moon was in Aries. No, it was in Aries 1st house again, so maybe, yeah, I misspoke on that. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't really, the delineation is exactly the same, pretty much. Is exactly the same anyway. All the things I said apply still. It's just that the sun is actually in your 7th house during this full moon, whereas the full moon is in your 1st house. So all the other significations apply. I just wanted to clarify that. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities for relationships for this month. And greater self-awareness, greater, understanding of yourself, blah, 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 self-improvement, blah, 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 all those things that I said, they still apply. I just may have misspoke on the placement of the moon. Yeah. Anyway, the North Node can represent fated connections. It can represent new connections, new opportunities. Like I said, the 5th house is a house of romance, sex, and fertility. So, what this indicates is that, for some of you Tauruses, some of you may be getting pregnant this month, for sure. North Node and Virgo in the 5th definitely can represent pregnancy. Yeah, if that's something you're looking to do, this month may be the month to put the work in, right? Also, for some of you, there's opportunity to meet new romantic connections. And like I said, with that full moon in your sign at the end of the month, that's another signification that indicates that this is a good time for meeting your romantic partners and such. And, for some of you, the North Node and the fifth in Virgo, it represent meeting new connections that are faded, people that you're meant to meet, or people that perhaps you have a past life connection with as well, for some of you as well. This could represent that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to do the Celtic cross reading for the month now, Tauruses. Oh, excuse me. Jeez Louise. I didn't do that on camera, did I? No, I think I did. Oh, jeez. Terrible, eh? Anyway, yeah, Celtic cross reading for the month. Celtic cross reading for the sign of Taurus, for Taurians. One thing that I'm getting just from shuffling the cards here is that there's opportunities for to increase your level of security as well during the month as well, Tauruses. I know you value that, like, as well as stability. I know Tauruses, you value your stability and your security, all those things. So there's opportunities for that this month. I'm getting to for a lot of you. Yeah, with that full moon activating your first and seventh house. Yeah, full moon being in your sign of Taurus, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Cindy. Say hi. uh, he's pretty cool, eh? Yeah, he's a talker. His moon's in Gemini, so. And his sun's in Pisces, which so he likes to make his presence known. These cats, during my spiritual videos and such, since their sun sign Piscean, so obviously spirituality is very important to them, right? And they like to talk to. Their moon sign's a Gemini, so. Anyway, so I'd say that. Just I'd say that. It's interesting how astrology, it still applies for cats too, animals. Makes sense, obviously, but yeah, it's kind of cool to see it in action. But yeah, anyway, Tauruses, it's not a bad reading for the month. Not the best. It's not bad. It's good, I'd say. Yeah, it's good. For card number one, we have the universe. This is called the World in Other Depths. What this indicates is that starting in the month of October 2020, Tauruses, um, this card represents where you're at the beginning of the month. So essentially, um, at the start of October 2020, Tauruses, you've reached a completion stage of some sort of graduation. Essentially, for a lot of you, you've reached a culmination of of circumstances going on in your lives around the beginning of October. That's how you're entering into the month. So for some of you, may have graduated or completed something of significance in your life, a course or a job or a training or a relationship, a wedding, something like that. For some of you, this could indicate that the world in this position that you enter um, October 2020 is being more so on the world stage. Maybe it's more, your life is more now interconnected with the world at large. Maybe you're interacting with various institutions and stuff like that, or various people, such that and you're more well connected than normal leading into the month. For some of you, this can mean that you're ready to start a new cycle around the beginning of the month. Yeah. In card number two, which is what surrounds you during the month, we have the Star card. This is very good. This is very good. This is very good. This is one of the best cards in the deck right here. So what this indicates, Taurus, is during the month of 2020, of October 2020, jeez Louise, month of 2020, I don't know, to me. Anyway, we have Star card, which is one of the wish cards. So essentially, during the month of October 2020, Tauruses, you may have people around you or circumstances around you that could, help you fulfill a wish in your life, or help you, accomplish something that you really want to accomplish, right? Which means, there's help available to you during the month of October 2020. There's help around you, potentially. There's perhaps someone around you who can make something happen that you want to happen, right? Who can help you fulfill a wish, help you get a heart's desire, help you to For some of you, this could represent someone who's into astrology. For some of you, this could represent an Aquarius person. It could represent someone who's into astrology or someone who's an Aquarius person. It could also represent both. There's hope surrounding you, essentially. This card indicates well. There's optimism and faith and hope that surrounds you, and positivity that is there for you if you make the right choices and all that, and depending on your circumstances, right, to begin with, leading into the month, right? Because it's got to be different for all of you. Like I said in previous videos, there's over 2 million people on this planet that have their sun, moon, rising sign, or part of fortune sign in Taurus. So, take what resonates, leave the rest. For the crossing card, during the month, we have the Swiftness card. this card is always negative. The crossing card, even no matter how positive the card is, it's always negative because it's a crossing card. Swiftness is normally a positive card, though. It's just in this position. Okay. What this indicates, Taurus, is that during the month of October 2020, moving too quickly or moving too fast could create problems for you. Trying to complete something too fast could create problems for you. Trying to make something happen too fast could create problems for you. Trying to go too fast can create problems for you. So an obvious interpretation of that would be, say you're doing, some physical type work or something, right? And you move too fast and you wind up injuring yourself, right? Yeah. But obviously, that delineation can apply to all kinds of walks of life and various activities that we do on a day-to-day basis, right? Or projects that we may or may not be involved in, right? For some of you, like I said, relationships and such, they're definitely a theme this month for you guys. So like jumping into a relationship too quickly could also create problems for you with this card in this placement. Yeah. So essentially, Tauruses, you like to, you guys, you like to kind of slow down and think things through and all that. Kind of, you're steady eddies of the zodiac, right? So you kind of, you like to take things slowly, like one step at a time and all that. So, maybe, stick to that philosophy during the month, rather than, rushing head first into things, that could create problems for some of you during the month, Anyway, I mean, not all of you, though. It just depends. But it seems like for a few of you, definitely for quite a few of you, it could create problems. Yeah. And sometimes we have to move fast. Sometimes it is what it is. On a case by case basis, you have to examine those things. Which tasks should I slow down on, and which do I kind of need to like move and take action. Otherwise, I miss the opportunity, right? Because like I said, there's opportunities present for you this month, Tauruses. So you have to examine each variable and each situation and each opportunity on a case by case basis, right? And say, okay, can I slow down on this one, or should I move fast on this one in order to grasp it? For some opportunities, you can slow down and pace yourself a bit better, right? You get better results. And for other opportunities, if you take it too slow, then it just kind of you miss your chance, right? So it's kind of you have to examine each opportunity on a case by case basis, right? And see whether it's viable to slow down or whether you kind of have to move, right? Grasp it. So yeah. Anyway, for card number 4, we have the Queen of Swords. This is your foundation card for the month, Tauruses. Your Tauruses, so I know fucking foundation is really important for you guys, eh? You guys are really about foundations, building a foundation, all that jazz, right? Anyway. The foundation card in this position, what it indicates, or the Queen of Swords in this foundation card position, geez Louise. What indicates Tauruses is that the Queen of Swords represents, it's a court card, so it can generally represent people. But in the foundation position, it's more so it can represent a person, an external person, but it's more likely going to represent aspects of yourself in your own life that you kind of have to call upon, right? The Queen of Swords, who she is, she generally represents a woman. 2 out of 3 times she'll represent a woman. She's generally established. She's generally 30s onwards, she's generally successful in her career. She's generally not so lucky in love. A standard archetype, Queen of Swords archetype, would be a divorced woman in her 40s. Yeah, with a good job, and, stability and all that material. Home probably fucking established, right? But fucking divorced and not really perhaps heartbroken, right? So what this card in this position indicates, the Queen of Swords, it also represents a woman of a person. Like I said, most of the times it's a woman depicted by this card, a person of a lot of clarity and insight, an intellectual person with a very sharp mind, fast mentally, someone who doesn't like being hindered, someone who who won't really put up with being hindered very well, someone who intelligent, self-aware, she could be very she could be pretty honest with her, the words she says, she'll genuinely tell a person how she really feels, she could be pretty she could say things that other people consider pretty mean, but she's just being honest, she's kind of real. Okay, crucial to your foundation this month, Taurus, is being real, being honest. Speak your truth, say what you want, and all that jazz, and ask the other party to do the same, right? Other parties to do the same. Also crucial to your foundation this month, Taurus, is cut away things in your life that are unnecessary. These could be certain relationships. For some of you, they could be relationships, partners. For some of you, they could be certain friends. They're bad influence, right? For some of you, they could be there could be lifestyle habits, lifestyle choices, the foods we eat, the things we consume, and all that, the media, the substances, all that stuff, right? That you may want to cut away from your life, right? Perhaps some of you are very addicted to social media. Maybe some of you may want to slow down on that, right? Perhaps some of you, you have a drug problem. Maybe you want to slow down on that or quit that, right? For some of you, like I said, some of you could be relationship partners. For some of you, it could be friends that are that don't really have your best interests at heart, right? Don't be afraid to cut away things that are unnecessary in your life during this month. It's not a bad time to do so. Things that are hindering you, things that are a dead weight on you, things that are kind of trying to tear you down, right? Don't be afraid to do that, and speak your truth and all that. And, for the past position card, we have the Ace of Discs. So leading up to October 2020, Tauruses, for a fair bit of you, it seemed like you may have came into money, or you may have for some of you, you may have started a business. For some of you, you may have started some financial opportunity. That was important. For some of you, you may have bought a home. For some of you, you may have made some kind of investment. For some of you, you may have started a new exercise routine. For some of you, you may have started a new job recently. Or you may have received a job offer. For some of you, you may have found an opportunity to make money from home. And for Tauruses, actually, that's not a bad deal. To make money from home, work from home. Actually, fuck, work from home, that's, not a bad deal for anyone, really, fucking, unless they're like one of those people that just, like to be out and about all the time, yeah. For me personally, I'm, working from home. But yeah, Tauruses, I know a lot of Tauruses, they definitely, like the idea of working from home because, you Tauruses, your homebodies, right? You like your home, your exaltation ruler is the moon, and your domicile ruler is Venus. So obviously you very much comfort your home and your security and family and things like that, right? Stability, those kind of things, significations, luxury, sensuality, all those things, right? Um, so yeah, um, yeah, these are things, possible manifestations that may have led into October 2020 for you guys. But like I said, the Ace of Discs in the past position, it represents opportunities. Those opportunities, they need to be grasped, in order to kind of develop fully, right? Because aces, they always represent opportunities that kind of need to be grasped and nurtured in order to generally, or at least grasped in order to, come about, really, and fully manifest. Because, the aces represent Kether, I think, on the, yeah, it can represent Kether on the, in the Kabbalah. The tarot corresponds to the Holy Kabbalah. Essentially, it's a representation, a visual representation of the Holy Kabbalah. And so the aces of each suit, they represent unmanifest things. They represent highly spiritual factors, seeds that exist in a level of reality that's several levels of abstraction above ours. Actually, it's like it would be 9 levels of abstraction above ours would be Kether, which is the aces, all the aces. Right? So it's an opportunity that represents kind of in like a high level of abstraction that's got kind of that needs to still come down to manifest into the earthly plane, which is Malkuth, which is the 10th sphere of the Kabbalah, right? So essentially, yeah, like these opportunities, they need to be grasped, or some of them need to be nurtured as well, to fully develop, right? Manifest. Anyway, yeah, we have, for card number 7, we have the 10 of Swords. Hmm. I got this card actually for the Aries reading just the other day in this exact same position, 10 of Swords, in the crowning position, which is card number 6. Well, what this indicates, Tauruses, is during the month of October 2020, there's the potential to that, for some of you, the worst could be over during October 2020, of whatever it is you may be going through, right? And for some of you too, there's the chance that the worst could happen, and like I said, for some of you also, there's the chance that the worst could have already happened and the worst could already be over right now, this stage, And for some of you still, none of these things will play out because the crowning position card is variable. It's something that may or may not come into play during the month. So, depending on the choices you make, and all that stuff, and your particular situations, individually, right? Then, those are possible manifestations that could, that may or may not take place with this card, right? There are possibilities that are on the table for a lot of you, though. Yeah, there are possibilities for a lot of you. Like the crowning cards represents possibilities that are on the table for you, but you have to it's not, the crowning cards are not exactly cards that are just gonna happen no matter what. Even if they're a Trump really card, even if they're a Trump card, they're definitely, they're variable. They depend on the choices you make, your particular circumstances and all that jazz, right? So let's keep that in mind. For card number 7, we have the Hierophant. Well, for one, Tauruses, the Hierophant is ruled by Taurus. It's the trump card that's ruled by the sign of Taurus. Each of the tarot trump cards, they're either ruled by a planet or by a particular sign. Just to clarify, for those of you who don't know that. This is card number 7. It represents influences or energies or people that may come into play around the middle of the month of October. So what this indicates, for some of you, the Hierophant is also called the Pope in other decks. In other decks also it's called the High Priest. So when you think of the card, the Hierophant, don't just think of the term Hierophant, think of the term the High Priest and the Pope as well. So what this indicates is that for some of you, around the middle of the month, a spiritual person, a spiritual leader can become more prominent. A very spiritual person can become more prominent. For some of you, it could represent that person who's very connected to divine, to spirit or divinity or the gods or God and things like that, right? It could become more important around the middle of the month in your life, more pivotal, more influential in your life, or a person like that could enter your life, could become a part of your life around the middle of the month. And for some of you, a person who represents a hierarchy of some sort could become prominent for you around the middle of the month. This could be someone in any kind of bureaucracy, law, justice, educational institutions, any kind of bureaucracy. Right? Yeah. And for some of you, another Taurus person could become more prominent in your lives, around the middle of the month. Or a new Taurus person could enter your lives, right? Yeah. Okay, for card number 8, we have the 7 of Cups. In this card, it's called Debauch. Jeez Louise, eh? Card number 8 represents how you should present yourself during the month, Tauruses. Jeez Louise. Debauch in this position, eh? How you should present yourself. Well, this one's pretty easy, eh? I mean that in a literal sense. In some cases, I jeez Louise. Oh, I didn't just go there, did I? Oh, yes, I did. Oh, dear God. What's this guy going to say next, eh? Anyway, well, one obvious interpretation of this card, it represents debauchery, it represents various fun pastimes such as sex, eating, good food, good wine, wine, women, song, all that kind of jazz, right? Yeah, that's kind of stuff. So essentially, how this and how you should present yourself position, Taurus is, you should present yourself during the month as wanting to have fun. Yeah. Present yourself as someone who enjoys having fun, someone who enjoys, pleasure, things like that, right? But don't over fucking do it. Fucking Jesus Christ, fucking like I said, fucking yeah, like I said, there are other influences that play as well. So fucking there's a line and a balance between having fun and going overboard, right? All that jazz. So, but present yourself, that's open to fun and open to fun experiences of various sorts, right? Yeah. For some of you, fucking, romantic situations, potentially, romantic situations potentially on the horizon, fucking, present yourself as someone who enjoys sex, right? You know, It's one of the significations of this card, sex. Yeah, Venus and Scorpio. Oh yeah. Jeez Louise. Yeah. Oh dear. Venus is the planet that most represents sex, and Scorpio is the sign that most represents sex. So, yeah, for some of you, present yourself as being a highly sexual person. Um, yeah, potential romantic opportunities that may be on the horizon. Anyway, for card number 9, we have the Hermit. And this is card that represents Taurus's how other people are going to see you during the month of October 2020. The Hermit in this position, geez Louise, um, you know, it, Taurus is during the month of October 2020. People could see you as being more secluded than usual, right? Which makes sense because that full moon at the beginning of this month, it occurred in your 12th house, which is the house of seclusion, right? And isolation, right? So people could see you as being more isolated during this month. People could see you as, spending more time at home this month. People could see you as, maybe if you're in a relationship or you meet a new partner, maybe you spend more time at home, than you usually would. It makes sense because there's, the coronavirus is kind of fucking picking up steam here. Anyway, in Canada, anyway. And it's probably picking up steam. Well, it's picking up steam in other places too. So, so definitely, makes sense. As people see more as being a bit more isolated or more of a homebody this month. Also for some of you, people could be seeing you as more wise than usual. People could be seeing you as more spiritual than usual. People could see you as following your inner guide, your inner light, your inner, your inner spark, your inner drive, your spirit, your will, your connection to source, your connection to God, your guiding light. People could see you as following those things more than usual. Or depending how you like to define those things. Some people, they like to define their ultimate guiding force as God. Some people like to define it as, the higher self. Some people like to call it their guiding light or, the universe or whatever. They mean more or less similar things, but different people define them in different ways. So, that's how people could see you during the month. And it's definitely, like I said, Hermit's, its primary signification is wisdom. So people could see you as becoming more wise during this month, right? Than you were beforehand, right? Yeah. Um, the Hermit's also ruled by Virgo. So, Virgo is obviously a very critical sign, so people could see you as being more critical during the month as well. People could see you as being more critical towards others and or more critical towards yourselves as well. Yeah. Anyway, for card number 10, we have adjustment. That's interesting too, because this exact same card was pulled in this position from the Aries reading the other day. So essentially, what this indicates is during that month of October 2020, Tauruses, your primary fear regarding this month is being treated fairly. For some of you, your primary fear is being treated with respect and treated with equality, right? For some of you, your primary fear is regarding the justice system. For some of you, your primary fear during the month is justice. For some of you, your primary fear during the month is that justice will be served. And for some of you, your primary fear during the month Could be for a Libra person, or could be for, for some of you, you could fear for a Libra person, and some of you could be scared of a Libra person. For some of you, your primary fear could be karma. Yeah. Anyway, for card number 11, we have the Eight of Swords, which is interference. And that's the end of the month card. So what this indicates, Taurus, is that around the end of the month, people may interfere with your plans. People may interfere with your life, or other, some circumstances may interfere with your life. By the end of the month, some of you may feel trapped or limited, by circumstances or people or outside forces, right, in some way. For some of you, this could indicate that by the end of the month, you may feel trapped inside your own minds. For some of you, like this card can represent that too. It can represent being kind of lost in your head. The Swords cards in general can represent that. But the Eight of Swords, it probably represents that the most. Well, the 9 too represents that. For some of you, this could represent that by the end of the month, you could be in a prison of your own mental creation, right? For some of you, around the end of the month, Tauruses, you could have a victim mentality. For some of you, you could be making excuses. For some of you, you could be in the dark about things. The full moon at the end of the month, 1st and 7th house activation. Like I said, there's opportunities this month to gain greater clarity to your thought processes and your subconscious versus your conscious mind. In order to alleviate the effects of this negative last card in this position, be more self-aware, be more conscious. Examine your thoughts, examine, your actions. Think about them. With the Eight of Wands in the crossing position earlier, yeah. Think things through first before you act. Think about how your actions affect others. Think about how your actions affect yourselves. Think about how your actions have affected others. Think about how your actions have affected yourselves. Examine yourself. Be more self-aware. Be more conscious. And if you do that, then the month will turn out more positively than it would otherwise, right? Examine your own motivations. What are they? Right? Are they honorable? Are they just? Are they fair? Right. Examine all these things. Right? Think about it. Because the reality is, fate versus free will, all this jazz, right? I talked about this in the Aries video, but I'll quickly recap it here. Essentially, some of life is fate, some of it's free will. That's the reality. It's generally a mixture of the two, right? So, the reality is that, depending on how conscious you are, and depending on how much of your potential you achieve, you can have more free will in this life than you would otherwise, right? So if you make good choices and you're responsible and conscientious, right, then you can have better outcomes in general in your life, not only in this month, but in your life period, right? can have more fulfilling relationships. You can have more enjoyment in your life. You can have, better career, better family life, all those things. Better friendships, right? Better, more happiness and joy, right? More pleasure and all that stuff, right? Less sadness, less grief, less loss, right? But it depends on how much of your potential and your consciousness, how conscious you are, right? So, the reality is you have to look at the things of yourself and your motivations and your desires and your actions and your choices and all that stuff. And, and examine those things, right? And if you do that, then if you do it in a fair way, you look at the other people, if you, in your relationships with others or interactions with others, you look at the other person's point of view, right? As well as your own. And you take both into account equally, right? That's good too, right? Because a lot of times, in situations with people, between people, conflicts and stuff like that, one side would generally only look at their own interests without really looking at, how the other is affected, right? But if you actually look at both sides at once, both parties, right, then you can be at a better place where you can compromise, right? Come to understandings, right? Because you can see it from the other person's point of view, right? That's what a lot of conflicts in this world are based on. It's based on, one person seeing it from their own point of view, but they refuse to look at it from the other person's point of view, right? Because they're scared if they do look at it from the other person's point of view, then, then they wouldn't necessarily be so gung-ho about their own interest, right? That's all a lot of conflicts are based on. It's based on both sides, or one side, um, not really looking at it from the other party's point of view. Because if they did, then they'd see where the other person's coming from. And some people, they don't want that, right? Because it's just, so yeah, um, yeah. Examine yourselves, examine your actions, examine your past choices, examine your relationships, examine your thoughts, your motivations, your desires, your choices, right? Your opportunities, stuff like that, right? Think about them, and you'll get better results. Um, because the less conscious we are as people, the less we try to develop our potential in this life, then the more interference we'll gain. Then the more interference we'll have in our lives from other people, from outside forces, outside institutions, whatever, right? Or circumstances in general, right? But the more conscious and the more we try to live up to our potential, then the more autonomy we'll have, right? So yeah, I'm for people having more autonomy. I'm big on that. So the key to that, like I said, more self-awareness, more consciousness. More self-improvement, more trying to reach your potential, right? If you do those things, then you'll have a better life in general, and you'll have a better month too, right? And like I said, it's not a bad month. Yeah, it's overall, the final card isn't the best for sure, but it's, like I said, your choices, can, um, for each of you, and your, depending on your circumstances, will, can, change to some extent how that will play out, right? Yeah. Um, yeah. Also, I'm doing another card as well from now on, which is the bottom card of the deck, which represents hidden forces that are at play, but they're kind of that you don't really notice. They're kind of operating behind the scenes for you guys. So during the month of October 2020, Tauruses, we have the Moon card, which represents, darkness before the dawn. It represents it's ruled by Pisces, and it's obviously called the Moon, so there's obviously correspondence to the Moon too, even though the High Priestess is actually the card that's ruled by the Moon, which is kind of funny, but it's one of those things. The Sun is actually ruled by the Sun in tarot, but the Moon is ruled by Pisces. but the high priestess is ruled by the moon, so it's one of those kind of funny things, I guess. Because the high priestess could definitely be ruled by Pisces, right? Because Pisces is very empathic and clairvoyant sign, psychic and all that stuff, right? Yeah. So anyway, essentially, like, operate in the background. You may not notice it, but it's you're reaching a turning point this month. It's you may not notice that the dawn is coming up for a lot of you, but it is, for a lot of you, right? Yeah, not all of you, but like for a lot of you, like it's there's light at the tunnel that may be a bit closer than you think, right? Yeah, that's a great example. Fuck, that's a great delineation. Fuck, that's great. Perfect. It was succinct. It was like quick, fucking insightful. Yeah, that was good. Jeez Louise. It's the Aries in me. I like to pat myself on the back, on the shoulder. Jeez, Aries and Leo. Fuck, Leo rising, Aries Sun, eh? But anyway, yeah, we're confident people. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna pull other cards for your romance and your work life and your money situation during this month. So first, I'll pull a romance oracle card, which is from the Romance Angels deck from Doreen Virtue. It's a good deck, actually. Cat hair. Jeez Louise. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's yeah, just a second here. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, so the card we pulled for this is children. Your love life is being affected by children. Okay, so like I said earlier, Taurus is there's definitely the astrological influences at play, with the North Node in Virgo in the fifth house. You're more likely to be more fertile this month. So, and if the children card in your romance position, that indicates, definitely those two factors being together, Tauruses, you're more fertile this month. Okay, so if you're looking to get pregnant, like now would be the month to put the work in, right? But if you're not, now would be the month to wrap it up, right? Well, if you're not looking to get fucking pregnant every month would be the month to wrap it up, or at least be on the fucking pill, right? So fucking yeah. Anyway, fucking yeah, it's just something to keep in mind there. Yeah, maybe for some of you with kids, maybe your love life is being affected by having kids, right? And maybe your partner that you're considering getting involved with, maybe they have kids, or maybe you have kids, and that it's affecting things, right? Too. That's an obvious. That's another, delineation of that. Yeah. For some of you, this could indicate, having, for new relationships and stuff like that, to have a more innocent quality to you, to have more, an open quality of a, more of a childlike quality, right? More of a, like a, have, you know, because there's a difference between how like people, adults and kids think generally. Like adults, they can generally, a lot of them, they can be jaded, right? So for some of you, when you're romantic in your love lives or for new romantic opportunities, try be less jaded and more, more, yeah, less jaded and more looking to enjoy the situation, right? Like in some cases, the person that they were romantically when they were a teenager, when they're in their early 20s, may be quite different from the person that they are, when they're 30, right? And in some cases, that's in some ways that's good. In some ways, it can be good. In some ways, it can be bad, right? Because in some cases, the person's more responsible, and all that stuff, and more maturity, right? But in other cases, they may be more jaded and more, bitter, more, less hopeful, So there's a balance point between those things, experience versus experience and wisdom versus still, having the optimism and the enjoyment, of youth, right? You know, in relationships, right? And new partnerships and new relationships and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's your romance and love life for the month. Um, this card kind of jumped out, so I'll take this one for work. Oh, we got the Chariot. That's good. And for wealth, we got the Three of Cups. Okay. Um, like I said earlier, there's job opportunities, likely for you guys this month. Yeah. The Chariot in the work position, that's good. There could be a good opportunity for you guys coming up to work for, a good job, a new job, whatever, promotion perhaps. Um, Opportunity to work from home, perhaps. Perhaps start a new business. Perhaps you have started a new business. Work life is favored this month. You can win in work. For money, we have the Three of Cups. Three of Cups represents friendship. Cups represent relationships, emotions, feelings. So for wealth, some of you could have opportunities to increase your wealth from friends, from romantic partners as well, or yeah, it's a positive card, so wealth looks decent this month. Yeah. Anyway, it's a good reading for you guys. It's a good month. But like I said, you want to take stock of things, inside here, and choices and the actions that you make, and the choices, the actions you have made, and how you interact and relate to others, and all that stuff, and all that jazz. So to get better results, each of you, it starts from here and in here, right? So like be the best version of you can be. Be the best. Make the best choices you can. Consider the other side's point of views. And think about the opportunities presented, and think about your own actions and your own behaviors and stuff like that, and try to rectify things in areas where you can, right? And you get better results and you have a better life. Anyway, it's a good reading, and yeah. So you know if any of you are interested in private readings, I do those, and my email is in the description of the video. So if you're interested in private readings, they'd be done over Skype, and they'd be a lot more specific to your particular situation, right? Because these readings, they're for over 2 billion people. So like I said, take what resonates and leave the rest. Not all of it is going to apply for every single Taurus. So yeah, but a good bit of it will apply for a lot of you. Anyway, yeah. Um, Also, rogerthewise.com is coming soon. But yeah, it's not up yet. I've got a bit on my plate right now. Anyway, yeah, I'll have the videos up for next month's readings before the actual start of the month. Just an FYI. This is one of many things I'm currently working on right now. So, like I said, yeah, I have a bit on my plate. So, sorry about that, but at least you get the reading on the second day, right? So, yeah, signing off. Good luck, and yeah. Good luck, and have good months, Tauruses.